One of the most notable aspects of Master Rule 3 was the introduction of the pendulum monsters, which were very unique cards which had two effects on them and had two very unique aspects about them. First of all, they weren't always monsters. Sometimes they were spell cards. The other interesting aspect is that they never actually went to the graveyard. They more often went to the extra deck, face up, for some reason. And because of this, at first glance, they started to be a little bit complicated. I mean, do you see these cards? How much text did they manage to put on these? You try keeping track of which one does what when you're using multiple different ones with different effects in the deck. You would have to keep on checking. So in order to, I'd say, streamline this process for people trying to learn and get into pendulums, they end up creating the Draco Slayer and Draco Overlord series. And this series was tied into 4 different attribute-focused archetypes. And all of these had very unique directions that they went in. And all of them, I would say, are fairly simple to understand. And out of the 4, I would say that the best one and my favorite one would have to be Dinomists, which was the second one released, and they were released in Breakers of Shadow. The basics of the archetype is that there are 8 main deck monsters, 4 scale 3 pendulums, and 4 scale 6 pendulums, while all of the monsters in the archetype are water machines that are either level 4 or level 5. And these aspects will prove very useful later on. But for the moment, the important thing is that their levels fit perfectly between the scales, so you don't have to worry about that aspect of them. And so, as to further streamline the archetype, there are only 2 pendulum effects to keep track of. All of these scale 3s state that if another Dynamist cards you control would be destroyed, you can destroy this card instead, which is very simple and very appreciated protection, while the scale 6s state that by destroying this card, you can negate the activation of a card effect which would target a Dynamist cards you control. Meaning that just by saying the scales, not only do you have the ability to pendulum summon now, but you also have 2 forms of protection. With their pendulum effects laid out, let's move on to their individual monsters and their effects. Starting with the scale 3s, we have Dynamist Stegosaur, a level 4 with 1600 attack and 1800 defense, with the effect that if another pendulum monster you control battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy both of them after damage calculation. Basic and rather generic too. It can help with monsters that are indestructible by battle, but at the same time its stats are rather lackluster, and it itself is not granted its own effect. Though I suppose if the pendulum monster battling was another Dynamist, you could just use a scale 3 to protect your own monster. It's a possibility, I suppose. Next up, we have Dynamist Terran. This is a level 4 with 1800 attack and 1200 defense, which upon destroying your opponent's monster by battle, lets you add any Dynamist card to your hand. It has just enough attack power for its effect to be used, and consistency boosts are always appreciated, especially ones that can search out the entire archetype, including itself. Other cards in the archetype can make its effect easier to pull off, and Mr. Boy can help boost its attack. Next we have Dynamist Ceratops. This is a level 5, 300 attack and 400 defense, which can be special from your hand as long as all the monsters you control are Dynamists. Granted, you can't always control a Ceratops if you activate this effect. Meaning it's a free specimen of a level 5. Making it a lot easier to link summon and summon rank 5 Xyz. Not much else to say really. And the final Scale 3 is Dinomist Spinos. This is a level 5 with 2500 attack and 1800 defense, which allows you to tribute one other Dinomist monster you control to activate one of two effects. These being the ability to attack twice and the ability to attack directly. Due to the lack of a once per turn clause, you can gain both these effects to attack directly twice, so it can deal 5,000 damage at the cost of two other monsters. Which, given how limited removal is now off the ban list, this has the potential to become an instant win. This covers the Scale 3s, and as such we now have the Scale 6s, beginning with the level 4 Dinomist Ankylos, with 1500 attack and 2000 defense. Still good defense stats for a level 4 monster. And its effect is that every monster that is destroyed by battle with a Dinomist gets banished instead. This effect is particularly useful against other Pendulum decks and some Graveyard reliant decks. But that's all I can actually say about it. The level 4 Dinomist Plasios has 1700 attack and 1400 defense. And while it's on the field, all your opponent's monsters lose 100 attack and defense for every Dinomist card you control. And yes, this can stack. And because of this, Tailwind can destroy monsters for such as much easier, and overall just lets you get over larger monsters. The level 5 Dinomist Brachion has 2000 attack and 800 defense, and can be summoned from your hand as long as you don't already control a copy of it, and your opponent has the monster with the highest attack on the field. It's a straight up Cyber Dragon, even down to the level and type. This card, along with Ceratops, can allow you to easily overlay rank 5 without using your normal or Pendulum summon. And the final monster in the archetype is Dinomist Rex. This king of the mechanical dinosaurs has 2400 attack and 2200 defense. At the end of the down step, if this card attacked, you can tribute one other Dinomist you control to activate one of two effects. It has the ability to attack another monster, this time with the bonus of dealing piercing damage, or shuffle a card on the field or a random card in your opponent's hand into the deck. Then this card gains 100 attack. Note, this effect does not target, making it a rather effective means of spinning removal. Side note, there are two elements associated with the Draco Slayer archetypes. One of these is the presence of an extra deck Draco Slayer with the same attribute as its respective archetype. And in this case, we have the fusion monster, Dinosaur Powell, the mighty Draco Slayer. It has 2000 attack and a massive 2950 defense. This card is summoned by contact fusing two Pendulum monsters, including a Draco Slayer. While Dinosaur Powell is on the field, none of your Pendulum cards can be destroyed via your opponent's card effects or by battle. And once per turn, you can summon a Draco Slayer Pendulum from your hand or graveyard. But that summoned monster cannot be used as a fusion material. The blanket protection granted by this card can be seen as either incredible or redundant, given the Pendulum effects present. Though never being one to pass up additional protection, I'm leaning more towards the incredible side. The other element of the Draco Slayers is a field spell which doesn't share the same name as its respective archetype. In this case, it's Dynamic Power Load, which raises the attack and defense of your Dinomist by 300 and prevents your opponent from activating cards or effects until the end of the down step. While I'd prefer if the name featured Dinomist, so that way it could help with Plasios and be searched by Tailwind, I still find it rather useful, given that it can give the entire archetype, which is heavily battle focused, basically has turned them into Armades. I think that's greatly appreciated, especially by Tailwind and Spinos if you're trying to get a direct attack OTK. Their other spell is the continuous spell Dinomist Charge. And finally, we're getting to an actual once per turn clause. In this case, a harder once per turn as well. When Dinomist charge is activated, sorts out a Dynamist monster. Additionally, if a Dynamist cards are sent from the field to the extra deck, add one of those to your hand. Quick and simple sorts upon activation, and as far as the second effect, its intent is to recover the pendulums whenever they destroy themselves for protection, so that you can easily reset the scales, and therefore their protections. However, since Master Rule 4, there's been a new benefit as you can now get around the limitations of pendulum summoning, as you can use them from the hand as opposed to using them from the extra deck, which would take up a extra monster zone. Now onto the trap cards, we have Dynamist Russ. This normal trap lets you special summon one Dynamist directly from your deck and is immune to all other card effects. But it is destroyed at the end phase. Seriously, why does this 1-for-1 style trap card need a hard once per turn clause attached to it? While all the monsters are restriction free, sometimes I really question the reasoning behind some of these card designs. But at least this is equivalent one trap for one monster, which is more than I can say for Dynamist Eruption, which can be activated only if a Dynamist monsters are destroyed and lets you target and destroy one of your opponent's cards, meaning that at the cost of at least one monster and the trap card itself, you can remove one of your opponent's cards, so you are always losing more than your opponent. If it was continuous with a once per turn clause, or due to both of them being rather short on the text side, why not just combine this card with the field spell? Yeah, that disappointment aside, let's move on to their most recent support card, this one being from Maximum Crisis. It is Dynamist Howling, a continuous trap card. And upon activation, lets you set your scales with 2 pendulums directly from your deck, although you're limited to only pendulum summoning Dynamists until the end of the next turn. Secondly, once per turn, you can tribute a Dynamist you control so as to bounce one card your opponent controls back to their hand. While making it a trap does delay it by a turn, it does speed up the setup while also providing bouncing removal. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest benefits of the Dynamist. That being the versatility, which is due to the type and attribute combination. Let's begin with the consistency boosters, which are usable in this deck. You have Echo Oscillation, Ignite Reload, Waving Eyes, Part of Witches, Pendulum Paradox, Pendulum Halt, Iron Draw, Moray Greed, and the fairly recent Pendulum of Souls. Even better are that 3 of these themselves can be sourced out by Duelist Alliance. And in terms of possible link monsters, which you could include, there are Cleavefort Genius, which you can even use the effect of, due to this being a pendulum deck with level 5s, and Platinum Gadget for additional swarming, Mr. Boy for stat boosts and being reusable, and of course Heavy Metal Foes Electromite for even more consistency boosts. And here's the fun part. Due to having level 5 machines and level 4 water monsters, you can make Cyro Dragon Nova and Bahamut Shark, meaning easy access to both Cyber Dragon Infinity and Totally Awesome, namely 2 of the best monsters for negating effects. Having now covered this archetype, here is the deck list which I have been using, and as I have always stated, there are many ways to build this deck, and with that in mind, I'd like to clarify that I built mine with an emphasis on Draco Slayers because I have a preference for the Draco Slayer series.
Decklist.